Now that we have finished the watercolor papers, we are going to make the loom for paper weaving. So I have two papers to choose from for the loom. So I'm going to choose this one for the loom and set one to the side. And then we're going to take our paper the long direction and I'm going to fold it in half, lining the corners up. And you are going to be using a little piece of yellow paper that have some marks on it. And so all you need to do is make sure the fold is at the bottom and the open side is at the top. And we're going to lay the yellow piece of paper across the watercolor paper and make some marks right on the back of the watercolor paper. This is to make the strips, the warp strips for paper weaving. So the strips that are on the loom is the frame when you make your weaving. So I'm going to take my ruler and make a little line across the top, maybe about 1/2 inch or so from the top open side, and make a straight line across so that way I know I'm not going to cut straight through my loom. And then you could either take a ruler and make your straight lines down like that, or you can just cut from the fold line up to that stopping line. So I'll just go ahead and make my lines first. Just make sure they're vertical. So you can do this as I'm doing this. And then using scissors, we're going to cut from the fold up. So you just hold it closed and cut up and stop. After we have that cut, then we're going to open it up, and then we're going to need to make some numbers across the top of the loom. That's going to help us with our weaving pattern. I have 3 different weaving patterns for you to choose from, and I have a handout that goes with that so that you can kind of follow along a number pattern. So almost done with this part. I open it up. I can decide which direction I want to have as the top. So up on the top, I need to number my vertical strips. So I'm going to use marker, but you can use pencil to write on the very top. So I'm going to start on the left side. So my first strip on the left, that's a 1. My second strip is a 2. Third strip is a 3. I would make sure you write your numbers close to the top edge. My fourth strip is a 4, and then it is going to repeat 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going back to 1 again, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. So once I have my loom ready, then I need to take my other paper and flip it around. I'm going to be cutting my strips the long direction. So I'm going to use this little card again so we can use this to know how thick my strips are going to be. Maybe I'll do 2 marks so that I can kind of follow those 2 marks when I make my line. Again, you could use your ruler to line them all up and draw the lines first before you cut. So I'll go ahead and do that. Maybe I'll start on this side. So just kind of line up the two marks, hold the ruler still, try to make a vertical line. I'll definitely have to press on the ruler because they like to slide around since they're metal rulers. Once I have all my lines drawn, I'm not going to cut all of my strips all at once, because if we run out of time, then it's very hard to keep track of all of our paper strips. So now that I have that, I'm going to actually number my paper strips. That way when I weave it in, I can line them up when they're woven in this way. So I'm going to flip it around, and having my paper tall, I'll just number them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So if I am going to use broken twill, which is a type of weaving pattern, there are numbers at the top of what you're supposed to do, and it will repeat. So if I'm going to use that handout to do the weaving, I'm going to cut my first strip. And then I am going to flip it around. If I flip this over, if I want it in this direction, let's see, that matches up right there. If I want it this way, my numbers will all be on the same side. So if that piece goes with this, my handout says 1 and 2. So where the diagonal lines are, that is what the strip is. So I need to go over 1 and 2, under 3, 4, over 1, 2, under 3, 4, over 1, 2. Then I'm going to slide my strip all the way to the top. After I have my first strip in, then I can go around and flip it around and cut strip number 2. I would cut a strip, weave a strip, cut a strip, weave a strip. That way, again, like if you cut them all at once, it's really hard to keep it in order. So looks like I have it in that direction. So row number 2, I need to go under 1, over 2 and 3, under 4 and 1, over 2 and 3, and under 4. So I'm using that as my guide. So I'm going to go under, over 2, 3, under 4 and 1. I use my right hand to lift the paper strips. That way it's easier to kind of get the weaving in. So after number 2, you can see this is a pattern. So I need to cut strip number 3. Flip it around. Line up so that my colors match up. And row number 3 is showing on 1 and 4. So I'm going to need to go over 1, under 2, 3, over 4 and 1. So that's row 3, over 1, under 2, 3, under 4 and 1, under 2, 3, over 4 and 1, under 2. So I'm going to stop the video there. So I'm going to keep working on that. And then after I have them all woven in, then we will talk about how we do the gluing part.